Right guys, so I thought I'd do a video showing how I constructed the dio for the T34. That way I can keep my idea a bit of a secret and then do a final reveal and, as I say, show all the construction side of it. So initially I was going to use this block of polystyrene and I was going to use this DAS modelling clay which air dries. The problem was the DAS wouldn't stick to the polystyrene. Even though I've put some PVA glue on here, let that dry and then tried to use the DAS on top of that, it just wasn't having it. It just wouldn't stick. So I had to rethink what I was going to use for my base, and I remembered I got one of these. So this is a section of balsa wood. In fact, I had about 6 of these. Initially I was going to use them as a wall fortification, having them up on the end like this for wargaming, and I did do a couple of walls, but I didn't take it any further. So I got these left and I thought, okay, I'm sure I've used DAS on balsa wood before, so let's have a crack at this. So as I say, I use the DAS. What you can do with DAS is add a bit of water to your fingers to mould it and whatever, and to get it to stick better, and that's what I did. And the other item I used was some of this. Now this was given to me by Greg Riley, and I think what it is, it's like orchid compost, but he's ground it up a bit in I think he's got an old food mixer, and he ground it up and basically sent me some, which was really kind of him. So let me show you what the base looks like at the moment. So here it is. As you can see, we've got all the DAS around here. What I did was I did an initial layer, and then once that was dried I looked at where I may need to go over, where the DAS may have cracked or whatever, and I've gone over it. This is the orchid compost that, as I say, Greg gave me. So it was quite a long time putting all this DAS down and getting this formation, and what will happen is the tank will be in this formation here. Okay guys, so we've moved on to the next phase. I keep forgetting to do a video of each process, so sorry about that, but hopefully you'll get a reasonable idea from the videos that I am producing. After I put the orchid compost down, I then waited for that to dry, and then I used some Games Workshop Lawn Oil to darken the compost, and this helped to seal it in as well, because obviously it's very thin paint, and this helped to give it a bit of additional grip to it. Once that was dry, I used some of this, and again this is from Greg Riley. Now I don't know exactly what it is. It's something else that's been through a blender, and what I wanted to achieve, and I hope you can see there, is it looks like we've got some roots and such like that have been broken as the tank has been brought across from here to there. I tried to make them point in that direction as well, to give you an idea of this being pulled. Once they were dry, I again covered them in lawn oil, but the marsh still wasn't dark enough. Recently I picked up, well I say recently, obviously before lockdown, I picked up this from Games Workshop, Corvus Black, and as I hope you can see from there, it's not quite black, it's a very, very dark grey, and so I painted that, well, dabbed it over the marsh area, and I also brought it up the sides as well, so we got an idea of the level of the marsh, if you like. Dabbed it along the front where the tank has collected some of the marsh material in front of this bump here. The thing that I want to do now is I've added some water effects down here. Now it's a very dark blue water effect, So that's this stuff. And what you're supposed to do is you basically put this on your diodes, but you can only do it in depths of 1/8 of an inch. So because this area here is like where the tank originated from, that's deeper, and so I need to build up several layers over here before I start pouring it around this area. This area here is just going to be very minimal amount of water effect, just to give the impression of, you know, damp and perhaps waterlogged soil, as opposed to it being like a river or something. So that's what I'll be doing next. So the next part of the video will show you with the water effects on it, and hopefully some progress on the tank itself. Right guys, so I added more of the water effect material to the dio. This section now is at the depth that I want it, and as you can see it's come across to about a point here, and then this is starting to just look like it's wet and there's no depth to it really. One of the problems I've got is that this is a very deep blue, and I didn't really want that. As you can see, because this is such a thin layer of the water effects, you're getting the colour from beneath coming through, whereas because this is deeper, the blue's actually showing through more. So what I need to do is, once this is dry, I need to kind of ripple this a bit to get so it doesn't look quite so flat and still. I have tried putting a layer of PVA glue with some of that Corvus black in it, but what that did was the Corvus black turned the PVA glue into a matte finish, so I'll lose all this shininess if I do that, and it would mean that once that was dry I'd have to go over with the varnish, so I may just have to live with this. So the other thing I wanted to show you was the tank, and unfortunately I've been cracking on with it and then realised that I didn't actually show you what I'd done, so let me get that for you so you can see where it's at. So here's the tank. I used Vallejo's Environment Mud and Grass, which is 73826, and it does have the consistency of mud with bits of fibre in there. So I'd sprayed the tank black, and then I smothered this all over, and this is the muddy section that you can see. It's all in the road wheels. It's a thin layer over the over the bottom of the tank, and on the other side as well. Whilst that was still wet, I got some more of those fibres that Greg had given me, and I basically just stuffed them in, so it looks as if, you know, the roots from the marsh have either been growing through parts of the tank, or, you know, they've been dragged up with the tank. Once that was completely dry, I then threw some of the AK rusty track on sections of the track where the mud wasn't covering it, and then once that was dry I put Norn oil over the whole lot to darken it further. So let me now show you how the dio is looking with the tank on it. So I can't quite fit it all in, but that's where the tank's going to sit, and now it's going to sit on the diorama. It's actually on its back, and the scenario is that this vehicle has been retrieved from a marsh in 2017 or something like that. It's been pulled out from where it was resting, and it's dragged along here, and this is the point where it's at the moment. And I don't know whether I've already mentioned this, but this was all inspired by a video that I saw, and I'll put a link in the description of a T34 being retrieved from a marsh area. The next phase, again inspired by the video, was they got it to this point along here, and I don't know why they stopped. I'm not quite sure, but whilst the tank was sat in this location, they had a bit of a snowstorm, and hence why this, I mean, it all took place during the winter as far as I can see anyway. Whether they did that because the ground was hard, so they could actually get the tank out rather than it just being dragged under the marsh, I don't know. But so all this DAS area was going to be snow anyway. So what I've got to do is I've got to varnish the tank so it looks wet, and then I've got some Railway Scenics snow, and I've got to throw that all over this DAS area, and then I've got to throw it partially over the tank. It shows it like this section along here covered in snow, and the other part not so much. The other thing I've got to do, if I just turn it round a bit, at this end, I've got to have two cables coming out of this bank, and they've got to come this way out of the bank, so it looks as if those are the cables that are being used to tow this out. So still plenty to do, but I've got to admit I'm really enjoying it. The only disappointment is the colour of the water at the other end, being that deep blue. But I shall crack on with the next phase, and then I'll show you the tank probably wet, and then I'll show you with the cables as well, and then the next phase will be the snow covering. Right, so the final part of this video, I'm sorry it's taken so long, but hopefully you've been interested in the process. This is the final result of the dio. I used the Woodland Scenics snow effect. Before I put that on though, I did a gloss varnish on the tank to make it look wet. The figures, let me just zoom in on them a bit. So the figures are the dapple ones that I showed you in the Cromwell video, the Armistice group build video that I bought, and basically I just wanted some figures that I could use on dios like this. Now they are, as I mentioned in that video, they are from the steam age, kind of British railway, what would you call it, railway personnel, and so I had to try and paint them in a way that they didn't look like that at all, that they were less uniformed. I just thought it was a nice kind of twist to put the orange vest on that one chap who's got a shovel, just to give him like a high vis vest because of removing this tank. Let's go back to the rest of the dio. So as I mentioned previously, this whole dio was inspired by watching a video of a T34 being excavated from a swamp area somewhere in Russia, I believe. There are other parts of the video that I watched on YouTube, and they were just incredible. It's like so many different ideas for future dios. It was just fantastic. What happened, and I think I've mentioned this before, I will put a link to the video in the description below. They located the tank, they hooked up a couple of cables and then started pulling the thing, and it turned out that it was upside down and it was being pulled across the marsh and left this track almost as it was being pulled. Then for some reason, I don't know why, I don't understand Russian or anything, they stopped the excavation and a snowstorm occurred, and we had snow on the tank, and there was already snow in the surrounding area, and that is what I wanted to try and capture with this dio. One of the problems I've had is with this Woodland Scenics snow. What I did was that if you recall, we had the DAS modelling clay underneath. All I did was I brushed on PVA glue and I then scattered the snow on top. When it was dry, I knocked the snow off, and no joke, practically all the snow came off. There was just this very, very, very thin layer of the snow effect on the DAS. Imagine shaving your head and you just got this like black holes where your hair follicles are. It looked like that. It was ridiculous. Even though I'd put the PVA glue in quite a thick layer, for some reason it just didn't settle. The snow didn't settle in a thick amount. So what you see here is the snow effects scattered on the dio, and it is all loose. It's not attached. If I pick this up now and was to knock it, all this snow would fall off and you just have a very thin layer underneath. I think what Woodland Scenics would have you do is you do several layers and you spray their scenic glue over the diorama, and so you spray the glue, you throw on some scenic snow, you let that dry, knock off the excess, spray again and add more glue. Problem with that is I'm going to get snow stuck to the base of the dio, which is black at the moment. I'm going to get snow stuck to the marsh river section as well, and possibly to the figures. So in the end I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw the Woodland Scenics on and do the video as if it was all settled and whatever. If we look at this part of the dio from a different direction, what I've tried to do there is give the impression of footprints to and from where the guys are, and I've also indicated the cables that are being used to pull this out, really just to try and give that impression of the work that's stopped whilst they're sorting something out. I have to confess that I'm really pleased with the end result of this diorama. It's possibly my most adventurous, apart from the one that's going to be 1/35 scale, and I'm going to do over a 2-year period, and I haven't done anything over the last 8 months on it. And again, 1/72, 1/76 scale isn't my scale. You can get away with not showing as much detail, just giving the impression of detail almost. So that's it guys, it is complete, and I can sit back and enjoy this diorama, although over time the snow will probably be blown off this particular build. I want to thank Greg for running this group build. I've really enjoyed doing this and using some techniques that I haven't used before. I enjoy doing something different as well. I think I may have mentioned I could have just quite easily built the Matchbox T34, put it on its little diorama base, and I've entered the group build and that's it. But this was, for me, something outside the box, and I did really enjoy doing this. Thanks ever so much for watching. As I mentioned before, I'm sorry that the video's taken so long, but I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope your weekend is going well, because it's Friday night, well, at least it is here in the UK. Stay safe, and I'll catch up with you soon.